All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for being here. My name is Ilse, and I'm part of the marketing team at Traxsoft. I'm pretty excited for today's webinar, which is very special since our guest speaker of today is my very own CEO and Traxsoft co-founder, John Farver. John has over 20 years of experience in the tour and activity industry and is happy to share his insight on how to build a balanced distribution strategy. But before we get started, I do like to tell a little bit about Traxsoft for our first-time attendees. To those who are already familiar at what we do at Traxsoft, please bear with me. I'll promise I'll keep it short. Traxsoft is an online booking platform to build, manage, market, connect, and sell activity experiences. We are located right in the heart of the beautiful Swiss Alps in a little mountain town called Interlaken, which is also known as the European capital of adventure spots. Our office comes with a great view that often has more paragliders in the sky than actual birds. We're in very close contact with the tour operators in town, which gives us a unique inside perspective into the industry and helps us truly understand the needs of our customers. Our company is founded on the idea that tour operators sell experiences. So whether it's a breathtaking helicopter flight, an unforgettable walking tour, a delicious cooking class, or an exciting rafting trip, you provide your guests with unique experiences that become precious holiday memories and, hopefully, many warm-hearted reviews. At Traxsoft, we believe that the experience does not start at the beginning of the tour, but at the very first contact point between you and the guest, which nowadays is most likely to happen online. To make sure that you don't miss out on any potential bookings, we've created an online booking and rental system that will seamlessly guide your guests through the payment process. But that's not where we stop. Our platform comprises the complete set of software features needed to run a successful tour or activity company of any kind. We'll help you boost your efficiency and revenue. By integrating live inventory, which availability you can manage from any device. Our channel manager can connect these experiences across multiple distribution platforms with the Traxsoft Resource Managers, while the Traxsoft Resource Managers eliminates the risk of overbookings. You also have the option to connect to other Traxsoft users to cross-sell activities at no additional charge. We also enable tourism offices and destination management companies to turn their website into a thriving marketplace of bookable products. As experience are driving the decision-making of today's traveler, a standardized booking system allows these destinations to better showcase their unique in-destination experiences and delight visitors with greater choice and convenience. Finally, we also like to write a lot of blog posts, hold industry studies, publish ebooks, and hold webinars like these, in which we share relevant information that will help you grow your business even more. Talking about today's webinar, I have a couple of housekeeping items to cover quickly before we get started. Today's webinar will be recorded and available on demand. Everyone who signed up to this webinar will automatically receive access to this recording via email in the upcoming days. The presentation itself will take approximately 30 minutes. We'd love to hear your input through it. So if you think of any questions during the webinar, we encourage you to write them in the question box at the right side of your screen. You can, of course, also tweet them using hashtag Traxsoft. At the end of the presentation, we have reserved about 15 minutes time to answer any questions that might arise. However, depending on the amount of questions, the Q&A session might take a bit longer or shorter. After the Q&A session, John will explain a bit more about the key Traxsoft features that can assist you in building a balanced distribution network. Everyone that's interested to hear more about these is welcome to stick around a bit longer. For those who are just tuning in, welcome. Don't worry, you haven't missed much. We're about to start with today's webinar on how to build a balanced distribution strategy for your tour or activity company. Our speaker for today is John Farver, CEO and co-founder of Traxsoft. So John, before we get started, I always like to start off with asking our webinar speakers to share their thoughts on the biggest travel trends of 2017. So in your opinion, what do you think will shake up the tour and activity industry the most in the upcoming year?
Thanks, Ilse. That's a good question. There's a couple things coming up in 2017. One of the biggest thing that's been for the past few years and is going to be growing even more important in 2017 is mobile and the importance that mobile plays. We'll talk about that a little bit farther on, but it's continued to be a disruptor in the industry, and more the amount that people are getting comfortable with booking things on their mobile phone. We're seeing a massive shift year on year at Treksoft with bookings coming through people's mobile sites, and a delay that people are waiting to book things to do until they're in destination and taking advantage of that, of the ability they have. The other big thing is we're finally seeing a shift in tours and activities, which is, I'm not sure how many of our listeners realize how important you are to the industry, but tours and activities is the third largest segment of the travel industry. It's well over 100 billion worldwide, and we still are much in the stone age when it comes to technology. It's been part of Treksoft's mission the past few years, is helping suppliers move online, become proficient at e-commerce, and we see, between us and our competitors in 2017, I think we're going to see a big jump. A lot of the suppliers are now, when we're making those calls and early calls with people, it's not, what's a booking engine, but which one am I choosing, and how do I do this? And the more live inventory that's getting online, the faster this whole industry is going to get shaken up.
Okay, great. So in short, it's time to get online, if for those who haven't already.
Most definitely.
Good. Well, John, thank you very much for this insight. I wish you all the luck, and I'll talk to you again just before we start the Q&A session.
Great, thank you very much, and welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to have you here tonight and joining us to talk about something which, to me, has been from the beginning one of the core foundations of Treksoft, and that is the importance of any operator having a balanced distribution strategy. Before we get too far in, a little bit about myself to give you some background. I do not come from a tech industry. I came originally as a raft guide, actually, in the mid-90s. I started a career in tourism as a raft guide in the Himalaya, and was lucky enough to spend the next 6 years guiding all over the world before settling down in Switzerland in the late 90s. And then in early 2000s, I co-founded Outdoor Interlaken, which is now one of the biggest activity companies in Switzerland. In a few years later, we also started a multi-day tour operator. And out of both of those companies and the needs that they have, that's where we had the early stages of Treksoft, and we started Treksoft, the booking engine, in 2010. So in my heart, I'm still a raft guide. I've seen the industry from many different perspectives, whether that's picking people up and having at their hotels and bosses having high expectations, to the challenges of running a small to mid-sized business in the day tour operations, and then in the multi-day tour operator business and the relationship between multi-day tour operators and the day tour activity suppliers that are actually, if we're honest, that's the reason people travel. They don't travel to sit in a bus or an airplane or sleep in a hotel. They travel to experience things, and that's what most of you are providing. So over the past 20 years, I've learned a little bit. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I try and put those mistakes and a lot of that knowledge and wisdom, well, I don't know if we really call it wisdom, but say learning by doing, into Treksoft and passing on those advantages to everybody else. One of those most important things, Benjamin Franklin, I'm originally from the US, by the way, and Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, always said, the only certainties in life are death and taxes. I've twisted that a little bit, because in the tourism industry, the only certainties in life are death and taxes, and every year something is guaranteed to screw up your season. whether that's an accident, whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's global politics, an economic crisis, the snow melting, too much rain, flooding, SARS, swine flu, your hotel that brings you all the bookings goes out of business. Something's going to happen yearly to screw up your season. And if you're not prepared for that, it has a big influence on your bottom line and the success and the stability of your company. So the one message I can give to anybody out there in tourism activities is balancing the source of sales for your product is absolutely a fundamental key thing to long-term growth and avoiding financial risk. No matter how much of a great run you're having right now because you're the only operator in town operating your product and you've got all the biggest hotel in town locked up, if you're dependent on one customer group, one segment, whatever it is, sometime it's going to come back and sting you. And if you're prepared for that, you can move through it. So vital, make sure you're not dependent on any one source of bookings, whether that's one reseller, whether that's one source market, whether that's one agent, and in today's day and age, one online channel. Just because you're number one on TripAdvisor today doesn't mean you're going to be number one tomorrow. One of my early mentors in Nepal when I was working told me, it's one thing, John, to climb Mount Everest. It's another thing to live up there. So getting to the top is one thing. Staying on the top is quite difficult. If you've been listening at all, and I think when we look at Treksoft and we see the conversations we're having now with various suppliers out there, finally people are realizing that things are changing, and whiteboards and Excel and how you've run your business for the past 20 years might not be the future, and technology is a huge driver there. If you look at the mobile influence, which I talked about earlier, it's actually driving a change in consumer booking habits. And 40% of the U.S. travel sites, according to Google, most of the traffic comes from mobile devices. And of those people there, if they don't have a good experience on that mobile site, they're bouncing really quickly. So if your website's not mobile optimized and you're not evolving, you're missing out on bookings there. With technology's been a driver, and we're at a point where you need to adapt. The great thing is it's also a huge leveler, and if properly used, the technology can be something that puts you ahead of the competition, that can help you offset risks, that can, if you're in the Caribbean and you're dependent, or anywhere where a cruise ship comes in and cruise ships are delivering most of your bookings and you're paying through the nose for a commission, technology can be a great evener out there. As long as it's something that enhances, and I love this quote, this is from a European Tour Operators Association meeting a few months ago, the technology always needs to enhance the journey and not become the journey itself. It is travel, and travel is not about looking at your iPhone. It's not about being stuck to your computer. It's about outdoor and doing things. If the technology is enhancing it, even better. And I think if we look at the disruption, Airbnb and Uber, everybody's familiar with that. They're two great cases. Let's be honest, Airbnb did not invent renting out a room in your house to tourists to sleep in. And Uber did not invent charging somebody for a ride. Those industries have been around for multiple hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. What they did do is they created a better user experience, and they disrupted the industry by controlling the information flow and by controlling how the consumers interacted with them. And they caught a lot of people flat-footed. They caught the hotel industry flat-footed. They caught taxis flat-footed, who then started to scramble on and got quite scared over this market share that these new upstarts were taking. So it's a good lesson. The technology is there if you use it properly, and you insert it into your company and make it part of your process. It can be a big advantage. If we look at a distribution channel, and here we can talk about what is a distribution channel. Well, obviously, I hope most of you have realized this. your most important bookings are your direct bookings that you're getting, whether that's via email, whether that's via web, whether it's via point of sale, your local kiosks in town that you're using to sell things, whether it's telephone bookings. You've got control over the entire guest journey, and you've got no commission. You're not paying anybody any commission. You own those guests. You've got a better margin. Limited reach. That balanced, all those positives are also balanced against, you need to have strong marketing. You need to be driving traffic to your website. You need to be actively emailing people. You need to generating awareness about your product, and that takes time and energy, and you need to be managing those bookings. So limited reach, high marketing investment. For a lot of operators out there, it's not feasible for them to do multilingual marketing in multiple geographic destinations and other source markets, reaching the Chinese, reaching an American market. What you can actually achieve with your staff can be limited. So it's direct bookings are awesome, but it has to be balanced against a realistic. If you want to grow, if you want to balance things out, you need to understand what you can get to. Key takeaway here, they are your best value, and regardless, make sure you own it across all possible direct channels. So you should have a way of taking bookings via email, via web, via point of sale, and via phone, and making sure that those bookings are coming straight to you. Other than your direct channels, what do we have? Then we have resellers, and here's where things opens all the way up. Obviously, if we're talking about technology, we're talking about online travel agents, the big digital resellers. Your local destination marketing organization, I hope they're working for you in some way to drive bookings. Local accommodation providers, tour and activity companies, partner companies in your region. We can take this further, incoming tour operators. Each one of these gives you an extended reach. Somebody else is doing the marketing costs for you, lets you reach variable markets, and hopefully lets you distribute the risk. But those also come at a cost. Margin. If somebody's doing marketing for you, they're going to ask for commission. You're losing some control over the customer, or at least you're sharing the control over the customer because you're not necessarily the first point of contact. But I do think resellers should be a critical part of any distribution strategy. You need to look for the opportunities there that extend your reach, bring you more bookings, and distribute your risk. And maybe not go after all of these all at once, and we'll talk about this at the end. I want to give people really a actionable, kind of checklist of things you can do at home to evaluate your own situation. But look at what you have now, look at what else comes to your region, where are you weak, and which partners can bring you more customers from where you're weak, and how can you contract with them. I want to step back and show you guys a bit of a case study from our own company, Outdoor Interlochen, which, full disclosure, I'm still involved in at a strategic level, but completely removed from day-to-day operations since we started TrekSoft. But in the early days, when we started in 2001, for the first 7 years, we did very little growth. We were less than 20,000 passengers a year, and 80% of our bookings were coming from one reseller in town. And you can imagine what kind of Christmas present we gave that one accommodation provider in town every year, and how those conversations, we were completely dependent on them. We were also completely dependent mostly on a young backpacker market of North Americans and Australians. Move forward to 2016, Outdoor Interlochen's now at 43,000 guests. 70% of the bookings come directly through them. Of those bookings, 30% are from resellers. 70% are direct, 30% are resellers. Of those direct bookings, 20% are online, and 80% still are offline. That group of online has been growing consistently year on year since Outdoor moved to digital. But we now have they now have a very healthy, balanced distribution strategy. And during that time, from 2008 to 2016, they survived droughts, floods. They had a deadly accident on the river. They survived the collapse of the U.S. market, where Americans stopped coming to Europe. They survived the collapse of the euro, where all their products were 20% more expensive overnight. And throughout all of that, they managed to grow the size of the company and year on year optimize the margin and stay very stable. If we'd been dependent on any one source or any one geographic market or any one reseller in that time, things could have been much different. What were the keys to success so far for Outdoor Interlaken? Early adopter and a heavy user of online tech. Obviously, they helped us start TrekSoft. Originally, we were building a solution for ourselves there. Beyond that, because they were an adopter of online tech, they very early on had live inventory available across all their channels, and so they're able to build a strong local networking for cross-selling products. And I'll go into that deeper in a little bit. It's one of what I think is the most important things operators can do in their region is find other companies right there who you can collaborate with, and instead of fighting over one small pie, work together to build a bigger pie. Then they expanded their network of resellers. They started working with OTAs early on. They had a very powerful collaboration with the local tourism board, incoming tour operators, local hotels, balanced. And I'm saying balanced a lot, that's the key here. But each one of those, any one of those legs could fall out, and there would still be enough customers coming in from other channels to compensate. Building partnerships. Let's be honest. Not everybody who comes to your destination is only coming, unless you're incredibly lucky in an incredibly unique location, they're not only coming to do your activity. They want to do multiple things. You're going to have first touch with some guests. Your other companies in your region are going to have first touch with some guests. If you're working together and you cross-sell your products, that the walking tour can upsell the bike tour, that the cooking class can upsell the walking tour, that the museum visit. If everybody's collaborating, if we're talking adventure sports, the skydiving and the rafting packages are amazing. Everybody wins, and you build a much stronger region, much stronger collaboration, and you can offset those marketing costs when you work together in that way. One of the most useful distribution channels now are OTAs. There are so many great products out there. I'm sure most of you have heard of Viator and Get Your Guide. There's so many great platforms that are developing amazing B2C platforms with great technology behind them, where they can show people the tours they think they're interested in, where they know that people are in Paris and they're waiting in line to visit the Louvre and they're tired of waiting in line, so they're looking for something on their mobile phone right now to do next. And when they want to do that, they want to book it now. So they don't want to book something that has to take a 15-hour confirmation window to email, is there availability? Yes, no, maybe. Confirmed ticket, they want to book it now. They need live inventory. The reach that these OTAs has is awesome. They're building a strong customer base. Their access to product and product with live inventory has been slowed down because so many of the suppliers out there are not using a technology that can connect and provide live inventory to the OTAs. We did some research at TrekSoft early at the end of 2016, where we asked all of you, which OTAs are you working with, what have the results been? And only 41% of the suppliers, so less than half of the suppliers that we talked with, are even connected to any OTA at the moment. So most of you aren't using them to increase exposure. Excuse me. But almost 70% of those who were confidently reporting an increase of booking. Of those that were, most of them were working with an average of 4 different OTAs, which is good. Not all the eggs are in one basket. That's incredibly important also with technology. What's here today might not be here tomorrow, and the best one today might not be the best one tomorrow if the next Airbnb comes along. And of the companies using OTAs, on average, they receive 20% more bookings per year than companies that were not using OTAs. at the moment, it's not. This is probably not actual anymore. But at the end of 2016, Viator was by far the most popular, followed by Get Your Guide out of Germany, Expedia and Musement catching up. I think globally, Expedia has a huge reach, and they're also investing heavily in experiences and activities right now and building that platform. So therefore, from us, they're a company to watch. I would expect them to catch up with Viator and Get Your Guide quite quickly. Musement down of Italy has a slightly different strategy, and Veltra, relatively unknown to many of you unless you're dealing with the Asian market. They're actually the largest platform for Japanese travelers visiting Europe and booking things. Tour Radar and Adventure Finder are much more in the multi-day tour. So the top there is Viator, Get Your Guide, Expedia, Musement, and Veltra are focused on day tour activities. Tour Radar and Adventure Finder are multi-day tour, multi-day OTAs. Beyond this, there were another 76 small and niche market OTAs that some people are working with. Huge opportunity. You might not be ranked number 1 on TripAdvisor, you might not be on the first 2 pages on TripAdvisor, but you might have an awesome product that fits in with a niche OTA. So when you're going to work with one of these, things to evaluate: where is their customer base? Where are they getting most of their customers from? Age group, is there a product fit between the products you're offering and the customer base of the OTA who's going to sell your product? If there's no product market fit there, then it's not you listing your products on that platform to get distribution, because you maybe don't want those guests. If you're offering class 5 rafting and their average people consumer on their site is 70 plus, it's not a good fit. When we talk about the pushback of why people aren't using OTAs, the biggest by far was people just haven't thought of it. So awareness, and here it's part of our job to make tour and activity providers, everybody, aware that you can list your tours on these platforms. They'll do the marketing for you. They'll get the bookings for you. Yes, you're going to pay them in commission, but then it's an offset. If you just look at it as commission, it maybe seems expensive, but when you think of it, I'm reducing my market costs, or I'm saving money on marketing costs because I'm passing that through to the OTA, it's a different conversation. 25% said they charge too much commission, which comes in a similar discussion. And here you really need to understand your product and the margin breakdown and your trip calculation on how much commission can you afford. And then you need to do the thought, maybe if that OTA is sending you 80% of your bookings, no, you can't afford that commission. But if they're filling up 3 or 4 empty seats, optimizing your margin, that commission doesn't seem so much anymore. And if there's 4 people on this trip that booked via the OTA have a great time and go home and tell everybody I had a great time doing this walking tour with company X, you should book with them, and those people come back and book directly with you, you've just gained a one-up. So yeah, commissions are high, agree. To the pain point, 100%, but it's worth evaluating and having that discussion and looking at the bigger picture of, am I filling up my trips? Am I reaching markets I can't reach otherwise? And am I going to get a follow-through effect because people have such a good experience with me that they're going to recommend me and I'm going to get more direct bookings later? It takes too much time to set up. I find it too confusing. Those are operational issues, and I wish we all had the problem that I get enough bookings already. And if you do get enough bookings already, then I do hope they're coming from more than one source, and you've got your risk balance there. The main challenge of online distribution is competing in searches. And here I can understand, and there I think it's quite a valid topic to be discussed. People want organic traffic to go to my site instead of the OTAs. Luckily, we're at a point where this industry is still in its infancy and it's moving forward now. And it's your responsibility to be giving that feedback both to us and to the distribution partners, and to help as an industry us avoid the situation that accommodation ended up into with Booking.com, where so many people say, yeah, they're too expensive, and we're getting outbid on our own keywords. But it's early stages now, and you have a chance to make your voice heard. The easiest way to get your voice heard is to get your product listed there and show that your product is something people want to book, but keep some of that power yourself. The rest of these I consider just excuses for people not willing to invest time in or money in adopting a technology or changing their business's processes from the existing one in order to reach out a new market using an online travel agent. I'm sure, and I hope, please give feedback on this in the questions and answers and discussion at the end of the webinar. I'd be very interested in people's feedback and how you work with your local destination management organization, your local tourism office. What we experience, and in my own experience, is the majority of them, most of their funding is based on how many bed nights they're generating. And so they evaluate themselves on bed nights. A lot of the focus goes on getting people to sleep in beds, pushing hotels, making hotels and accommodation bookable, and tours and activity and experiences, although from a marketing and brand point of view, usually take front seat. When it actually comes to guest experience and customer experience in booking those, it drops off quite quickly, and at a best case, there's a small link through to your sites. There's huge room for improvement here in how these DMOs work with the local tour and activity providers to drive not just traffic and visitors to their region, but real advanced bookings before people come in destination. I think Fjord Norway is an excellent case study here, where they've taken it from on the platforms from the local level, Alesund, to the regional level, the Fjord Norway DMO, up to the national level. This same product of a bird watching tour is bookable across all platforms, real time, because they've made it a main priority not just to use the tours and activities and experiences for the visual and the branding, but actually to make that experience bookable throughout the whole thing. That can be an incredibly valuable channel and source of bookings for people, and I would love to have an open conversation at the end of how you guys work with your local DMOs, if you find it positive, if you feel you have a voice, if you're paying a tax but feel underrepresented, and how we could help you to improve that so they're driving bookings for you. Getting started. The days of not knowing where you spend your marketing money, or not knowing where your bookings are coming from, or not having any business intelligence on your company should be over. There's enough technology out there and enough resources out there. In our own ebook library, you can download some best practices. First, really evaluate your current situation. Where do your customers come from? Where are your source markets? What's your customer base? How do you get them? And be honest with yourselves. Do you have a balanced distribution strategy right now? Are you getting a balanced amount of bookings, or are you dependent on one cruise ship, one bus operator, one hotel, one geographic market? Really understand the margin calculation on your trips. What's your fixed versus variable cost? That's going to be, if you've got boats or buses with limited places and high fixed costs or high variable costs based on the number of passengers, then you can't really afford to be paying high commission or price dumping or giving things away for free, as opposed to if you've got a virtually unlimited amount of capacity where you can just fill things up. Evaluate your room for commission, and when you think about commission, always consider how that's offsetting your marketing costs. If you consider some of the commission you're paying as a marketing investment, it makes your what you're paying there, if it's real and if there is a marketing return coming, it makes it a little bit easier to swallow. Evaluate new opportunities and evaluate the additional channels. Here it makes very much in a sense to just write down what are the benefits of each. Am I getting a better reach? Am I reaching new markets? Is there going to be what's the return on investment going to be if these bookings come through? Am I going to generate more reviews to a new customer segment that's going to help my band grow? What's the cost? What's my time investment in this channel to make it work? Is this channel going to offset my seasonality? Many of us work in seasonal businesses, high season and low season, and no, we don't need more customers coming on Saturday afternoon in July at a discounted rate. But we'd probably be happy to have customers coming on Wednesday in November at a discounted rate because it's going to keep our guides working. Whatever you do, aim for success. I think the extreme here is to look at kind of the Groupon and the group buying fad from a few years ago, where companies bought into it and they said, sure, we're going to do it, but then they were disappointed. They felt, one, I have to give away 50% discount on these products, and then I have to give away 50% of that, half the money I'm getting back to Groupon as commission. I'm left with 25%, so I'm going to treat these guests like shit because they didn't pay anything. I saw that mindset come through so often, and if that's going to be your mindset with working with any channel, you're better off not doing it, because at the end of the day, it's going to hurt you. So the whole idea of giving somebody that much discounted with Groupon is to get them in your door, let them experience your product, let them become an ambassador and an advocate, a repeat customer, review you on TripAdvisor, help you in some way, but they're not going to do any of that if you don't give them a good experience. So regardless of every channel, regardless of how much commission you're going to have to pay or how much time investment you're going to handle it, if you decide to commit to it, go all in and do everything you can do to make sure it's a success and you're getting the return on investment from that channel. It's not worth testing out new channels with a halfway. Don't just dibble your toe in the water. Understand it, understand what you need to do to own it, and understand what you need to do to win that channel, and then go for it. And last is test, track, evaluate, and repeat. Everything at the end of every season, you should look and reevaluate your relationship with the OTAs, reevaluate your relationship with different partners. Is that commission fair? Are you both? It should be win-win for both sides in any relationship. You're providing a service, you're treating their guests, regardless of whether it's an OTA guest, whether it's a hotel guest, whether it's a partner's guest, whether it is an incoming tour operator guest. It needs to be win-win because you have joint ownership of that customer. So it shouldn't just be about the price. If you feel like they're twisting the screws all the way down so you can't move and you can't give a good service, that's going to very quickly be lose-lose for each side. So you need to go back and give them and reevaluate, and if need be, end a relationship with a channel. But hopefully you've set up your overall strategy that you can happily do that because you've got other channels to fall back on. Key to this all, and what makes this easy and what makes that really work right now and what puts a lot of the power in your hands, regardless of whether you use TrekSoft or one of our competitors or another technology, you need to get your live inventory managed in one place with some sort of management so real-time bookings are available across all the channels you're working with. And that's the key to a successful distribution strategy. Anytime you add friction into that by making people confirm bookings via email and wait 24 hours for a response, making people not be able to book right now and get a confirmation. You're just, today's day and age and the speed with what people are moving and what the consumers want and the consumer experience they're used to, they don't have patience for that anymore. So if it's not this year, I hope it's getting ready for summer 2017, but if it's not this year, you need to start moving and managing your inventory in some sort of system where you can take real-time bookings and give all of your channels access to your real-time prices and real-time availability. I hope you found that useful, and I'm very much looking forward to some questions and some interesting discussion. Ilse, I'll hand that back over to you now to moderate that. and please let's have a talk.
Thank you very much. Quick reminder for the attendees. If you would like to know a little bit more about the Traxsoft features and how these can help you build this balanced distribution strategy, please stick with us until after the Q&A session, because John has agreed to go over these features and give you a bit more insight on it. Talking about the Q&A, please don't forget to submit your questions. You can still do this. It's not every day that you can ask your question to the CEO of Traxsoft, so please make use of this opportunity. During the presentation, some questions came in. One of them is from Vera. She would like to know, how does cross-selling with other tour and activities operators help you get more bookings? Don't you risk losing bookings to your competitors?
I think it's a good question. It's also the biggest kind of pushback I get when I have this conversation with people. If you're both running the same walking tour or the same cooking class or you're the two rafting companies in town, probably it's not going to be useful. But if your products are a little bit complementary, people aren't coming. Let's stick with Interlaken. People come to Interlaken, they don't just want to go whitewater rafting or canyoning. Most of them do 3 or 4 different activities while they're here. So they want to go skydiving, they want to go, they want to do a water sport, they want to do a hike, and they want to do a walking tour. If I'm the consumer coming in and I land on my first #1 activity that I want to do is rafting, and I go to the rafting companies and I go to book that, and then I see, hey, I can also book my paragliding and my walking tour right here in the same basket. I can plan these out, or because that company has such a close collaboration with other operators, they've created great value for multi-activity packages. It's a win. It's a win for the customer. He can book everything in one place. The rafting guy gets his one passenger on the raft, and his partners get a booking, and they're willing to pay the commission back to the rafting guy because he brought them, his marketing brought that, and vice versa. If somebody lands on skydiving first and is able to book a rafting and a paragliding and a walking tour in the same basket, it's a win for everybody. I think the idea of I need to eat the whole pie from a little pie is much too short-sighted. If you say, if we work together and look at our whole destination and who can I work with in this destination, it doesn't have to be everybody, but who are my key partners that I'm comfortable working with, that we have complementary products, and by working together, we're going to give visitors a better, more seamless, more rounded experience. It's a win for the destination, it's a win for the consumer, and if the consumer is winning, then so are all the suppliers that are involved in it.
Great. So actually the key is to find the right partner, and then it's just a domino effect of positive things that you can do for each other. We have another question from Jason. Jason would like to know, how can I motivate more people to book directly at my website? Should I offer cheaper rates, or are there any other tricks?
Cheaper rates is always the cheap and easy go-to solution, and I would say cheaper rates are valuable at some points. You're not going to make your partners and your other resellers happy doing that, so it's something you need to look very closely. I would first make sure people can find you. Obviously make sure you're on TripAdvisor, make sure people can book on your website, that you're able to take direct bookings. And that's something I didn't address at any point yet, but we quite often hear, I need to talk to all my customers before they can book. I need to talk to them on the phone. There's too many questions. My product is too complicated. I really want the personal touch with everybody. And that's all true. But I guarantee there are people out there that just want to book and pay for your products and not talk to you. And if somebody does want to talk to you, then they're going to find a way to reach out to you, and they're going to definitely email you or call you and ask you the questions. And even if your product is so complicated that you have to talk with every guest, wouldn't you be more motivated to talk to somebody if they'd already paid you and risk that maybe it's a bad fit and you're going to have to refund them than to have conversations with people that are just in still the consideration stage? But that was a bit of a tangent compared to your question about how to get more people to book on your website. There we have a wealth of information, and Ilse, maybe we can include the link to the TrekSoft library, marketing library of marketing tips. But make sure you've got good SEO. Make sure other people are reviewing you and writing about you and posting about you, and don't be afraid to ask your passengers, your customers, to do that for you when they leave. Make sure when they do come to your website that it's easy for them to book. If your book now button is buried 5 pages deep at the bottom of a page where people have to scroll down for 5 minutes past your full itinerary, that's not an optimal place for them to book. So make it easy. Make sure you're driving traffic. Get Google Analytics, which is free. Get that installed on your website so you can see how much traffic you're driving and where it's coming from. Evaluate doing paid ads and bidding to get your brand out there to people who are searching for keywords in your destination. There's a lot of different things you can do to drive traffic to your website. It's an ever-changing, ever-evolving science, and that's something we try and do our best to give everybody the resources from our knowledge and our experience on how to optimize from it.
Thank you very much. That's a very good answer. As you asked, I just shared the link to the TrekSoft library in chat. Here you can find all the resources that John just managed, and I'm sure you can find a lot of tips, Jason, that can help you drive more traffic to your website and convince people to book directly at you. I have another question from Ricardo. Just a note to our audience, please be aware that you're still able to type in your questions. Ricardo asked, how many OTAs should I connect my activities to? Would it be bad if I connect to as many as possible? I run boat tours in Costa Rica.
Hi, Ricardo. Good question. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this. I would say connect to as many OTAs as you feel who the customer base on that OTAs is a match to your product. So if you're running boat tours in Costa Rica, I'm assuming you can fit. That's a pretty wide customer base. Look for OTAs that are strong and their consumers are coming to Costa Rica, so that they have other products or listing other products in Costa Rica. So you know that there's traffic coming there who's coming to your destination, and it comes down to a time management question. How much time do you have to make sure that your contracting and your rates and your agreements with all these OTAs is set up in place? But I would definitely more than one. If you're gonna work with OTAs, work with more than one, because you want to have that balance. So, but is there a maximum? That comes up to you.
Okay, I think that's answering his question very well. I hope he has all the manpower to connect to as many OTAs as possible. I have another question. This one is a little bit tricky, John. Just in case if you're not able to answer it, I'm sure we can follow up to the question by email. But Janine would like to know, she says, you mentioned a few OTAs for multi-day tours. Have you found a niche OTA geared towards sailing cruises?
Hi, Janine. Yes, I guess I'm going to guess that this is Janine from the Island Windjammers. I hope it is anyway. Janine, yes, and I cannot remember the name right now, but I will find it out and send it to you. I've come across it. I don't know much about it and how much traffic they drive, but I will dig up the name of that OTA and reach out and make sure we reach out to you with it. Having said that, I also, since you're here, we are also looking with the Expedia connection coming up of how we would fit the multi-day tours into that, because I know that Expedia does have a whole area dedicated to cruises and sailing trips. which is a bit outside of the local experts. So we do have a project in place right now, specifically for you guys. I can't guarantee anything, but on how that would work with Expedia, and if the connection we've built with the local activities would also be sufficient for listings in their cruise section.
All right, thank you very much. I have a question from Roland. He would like to know if live availability is also essential for group trips.
Can we unmute Roland? Roland, can you give us some more information on that? What exactly is your question? What do you mean by group trips?
1 second. I'm trying now. Yeah. Hello, Roland.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Hi, Roland. Yes.
Yes. It's just that I was wondering because I'm operating in the B2B world as a portal between tour operators and hotels, and we are facing the issue of that hotels cannot provide live availability for groups at this moment. You know, this is still a very offline process. So I was wondering how this is in the activity world.
I think, well, the activity world, to be honest, is 15 years behind where hotels are right now, as far as the reality of being able to provide live inventory. Reason being that so many of the suppliers still have not moved to any kind of management system other than whiteboards or Excel or home-baked solutions. But beyond that, I think if you're working with suppliers who are using a system, then that system should provide. I mean, I know how Tracksoft does it. We provide to the group operators, to the tour operators, that they can have a login to the system directly, so they can see the live availability and book their groups in. Where the difficulty here is, you still need to maintain the contracting. Just because you give somebody access to your live inventory and the ability to book into it, you still need to manage your agreement with them of how big a group they're allowed to bring or what the minimum numbers are. That's something that I'm not sure there is a solution. I know we can't do it, and I don't think anybody can do it, that where you can give any individual tour operator so many restrictions that they absolutely have to book X number of seats this much time in advance, or they lose their availability. So if you're able to, what you are able to manage is if they book more than X number of seats, the price is automatically this per seat. That flexibility you can give them. So with Tracksoft, at least, we do have some solutions for managing the pricing and tracking the commission and the bookings, and being able to give those operators the ability to log into their own extranet and book directly into your system, and they can also see what trips are available. If you're giving them, if part of your deal with them is they can't book the 12 o'clock Saturday trip because their rates are so discounted, then that needs to be managed contractually, and because they still will be able to see those trips. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Roland, for giving a little bit of extra information on this. So far, I don't see any more questions coming in. I still am going to give you a quick minute. In the meantime, we can already start looking at the Tracksoft features. So if you still, while John is talking about the Tracksoft features, think of a question, feel free to leave it in the comments.
I have a question for people that I didn't get any feedback on yet, and that is, does anybody want to comment on how their relationship is with their local tourism organization from a tour and activity supplier point of view? Do you feel like you get a justifiable amount of promotion and time and effort put into making sure that that organization is driving bookings for you?
Let's see, let's give people a chance to react towards it. I think no one wants to get into fights maybe with their local tourism offices. It's maybe a little bit of a political issue. Or we just have a lot of quite happy tour operators that are fully supported by their tourism office, as much as hotels are.
Sure. Well, for those of you who are interested, and we really try with these webinars, they're not meant to be promotional, they're not meant to be about TrekSoft, but in planning for this one, I wanted to keep at the end, and for people who are interested, to be able to show you the key features in TrekSoft that we feel help you to manage a distribution strategy. And so feel free to stay on and listen if you're interested, and otherwise we will be sending the recording around later, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. What we do in TrekSoft, and here the distribution strategy has been kind of a key focus of ours since the very beginning, and we learned quite rapidly that I think we were in some areas a bit ahead of time because people have to learn to walk before they can run, and we're still educating a lot of suppliers on how to put a Book Now button above the fold, and not on how to connect their live inventory and cross-sell with partners. Having said that, this functionality has been baked into the TrekSoft solution from the beginning, and early on and key is our POS desk and the agent feature, which anyone using TrekSoft can build a network of agents. They can give those agents different rights, the ability to only process bookings with online payments, or the ability to accept cash directly, or the ability to make reservations. We even go to the far to some of our suppliers ask the ability to give agents who they trust the rights to overbook trips and go directly in and edit bookings. So we have a very powerful set of tools that you can give to agents, and you can assign those agents different codes in the system. They can then log in either directly into the back end or through our point of sale desk and book into your products. It's great for hotel concierges. It's great for sales stands, point of sale stands, and kiosks. As we said, the group travel use case, if you've got incoming tour operators who upsell activities on the bus as they're coming into your town, for instance, they can see as they're coming in, this is what's available tomorrow, and those guides don't need to call. So it works on computers, it works on mobile devices, it works on tablets. Bookings come straight into your system. You've seen real time what they've booked. You can assign variable commission to the rates to the agents, variable rights of bookings, and building that network up, even to the point of peer-to-peer promotion, where you can give agents discount codes that they can distribute all over social media and say, book with my code and save 10%, and you can track all the bookings that come through. That works great for hotels, for instance. If they're using their agent code, they actually get unique links that they can put in confirmation emails. I mean, hotels are amazing. They know when the guests are coming, how long they're staying, what age they are, and they always send them a confirmation email. It's very limited. It's zero work for that hotel to put in the bottom of their confirmation email, hey, while you're here, we really recommend these activities, with the link to your website, and you get bookings, and the hotel gets commission for putting in one line of at the bottom of an email. It's win-win for everybody. Channel Manager, very relevant right now, and here this has been super slow. People have been talking about the OTAs and how big Viator and Get Your Guide and all the other 76, and there's more than that, of these startup OTAs who are going to drive tons of traffic and great user experience. None of them are going to be able to do that really, really well until all the suppliers from this 100 billion global industry start using some sort of system and giving them their live inventory. So we do that through the TrekkSoft Channel Manager, where you can opt into the OTA. All the bookings that come through go straight into your system. That OTA can always pull on your real-time availability and your live inventory. There is, in here, one of the biggest hurdles we're seeing right now is mapping the price categories. If you think accommodation pricing is complicated, tour and activity pricing is another step beyond. It's such a fragmented industry that all of you have built up pricing structures with different rules, and you handle it a bit differently. We've given everybody the flexibility to build these pricing structures how they want in TrekkSoft. Mapping that against how the OTAs want to display it is another. That's one of the big challenges that we're all facing right now, and we're working through. We have a solution for it. It's different for each OTA. So at the moment, it's not as simple as apply, click, and I'm listed. You need to contract with the OTA. You need to agree your own rates with that OTA. We just process once that's established, we process the connection and make sure that they can pull on your live availability. Trek Connect. This is where building those local partnerships comes into play. Any merchant using TrekkSoft can connect and partner with another merchant using TrekkSoft, make an agreement to cross-sell each other's products seamlessly and display those products on each other's websites. So the rafting company can display the products from the paragliding company. They can be booked in packages. They can be created in dynamic packages. They can all be booked in real time. It works great for local activities cross-selling each other. It works really well for multi-day operators or multi-day or cruise ships or sailboat excursions who are coming into an island. Anyone who's bringing guests into a region and has the opportunity to upsell products from that destination, they can partner with the other suppliers in the destination, and their guests can book in real time as they're pre-trip, during the trip, on arrival. It all happens. It makes it easy for your local tourism office to create regional marketplaces. That was the Fjord Norway example I showed you, where they can roll up all the inventory in one region into a marketplace. You can effectively create your own niche OTA. You can do it by region, you can do it by vertical of sports, and the accounting and the end of year, end of month reconciliation for invoices is all handled through TrekkSoft. So Trek Connect, like I said, creating dynamic multi-element, multi-company packages. You can cover a guest's full holiday. Excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. I think I've been getting too excited about the TrekkSoft features. And the DMO, I got a bit ahead of myself. As I mentioned, creating those regional marketplaces. We help the DMOs to make their websites more than just listings of things to do, but actually the visitors they're driving there can book the activities in real time. So once again, thank you everybody very much for staying with us and for listening. I hope you found the feedback useful, and feedback from you is really critical. If you think of more questions or have more comments, or if you disagree with something that we've said tonight, I'd very much love to hear it. My email is in the presentation. Feel free to reach out. And I wish you all, I'm not sure what we have for geographies here, but for everybody in the Northern Hemisphere who's approaching high season and coming summer, I wish you a very good few months rolling into high season and a successful 2017. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. Great presentation. I think you have helped a lot of our audience, giving a lot of good tips and helping them move forward and creating that balanced distribution strategy. Well, that's it for today. In the upcoming days, you will all receive an email with a link to the recording of the webinar and the PDF slides of the presentation. For those of you who are looking for a bit more information on Traxsoft and how we can help you grow your business, feel free to reach out to us through email, Skype, phone, Twitter, Facebook, or on our website. Just a heads up, as soon as you leave the webinar, you will be directed to an exit survey. Just 4 questions, 2 of them are multi-choice, on how we can improve these webinars and make sure that you walk away with even more knowledge. John, once again, thank you. And to all of you in the audience, enjoy the rest of your day.